Joe Sway, none of the previous Wi-Fi issues are even part of the show, okay? Nothing. We started new.
We got him out.
Celtics post game. Jimmy's sitting this one out. Well, I wish I could sit this one out.
John's defeated. I was just gonna say,
Look
John's
at me.
defeated. Look
Nothing.
at him. Oh
I've
man,
got,
Celtics. Look what you guys are doing to John. Look,
Wow.
I've got nothing.
Well, it's never a good thing.
I don't even have rage. I have nothing right now.
That's bad, John.
It's bad.
That's really bad.
If they're not going to put in the effort, Sherrod, why should we? Okay.
No, John's got plenty. He's just tired of recycling a lot of the stuff that we've been saying. I think that's what it is.
Pretty much. I'm out
It's
of
like-
original ideas or complaints.
Yeah, and that makes John sad. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. They're this was such a Celtics kind of week where there's amazing highs. And then you got nights like this where you're like, Jayson Tatum, the same guy that dropped 60, was a minus 22 against the Chicago Bulls.
Was he getting set up enough, Sherrod, in your opinion?
He wasn't attacking enough.
He didn't do
I
anything.
didn't think he.
All right.
It was the same deal as the last Chicago game.
That's fair,
Yeah.
but Sherrod, like you said, man, a week ago, this man dropped 60 points in front of your own eyes, Brad Stevens, looking at you. Out of the timeout, can we get a couple of plays just to get him going, just to show everyone, hey, we have one too. We have a star here, guys.
I thought he
regardless of
settled
who
a
they're
lot.
playing against. I'm not saying this whole
I'm with
down the
Sherrod
whole
there.
road of it's the Chicago Bulls. He could beat up. No. I'm not even gonna say all that because these guys played their heart out tonight. I just want to see Brad Stevens be assertive in a sense, like, no, he's gonna get his shots. He's gonna get them now. He is an all-star. People want to use the word superstar loosely. Okay, fair enough. But he dropped 60 points for you last week. Why don't we try to get him going? No, I didn't.
Here's a thought. How about Jayson Tatum tries to get Jayson Tatum going?
So that's exactly right. So
Yeah.
Get to the rim.
Yeah.
I think you're both right, honestly, in this one. Because, yes, that's got to be – if Kemba can do it, Jayson can do it. Kemba clearly looked over and he's like, so I guess Jason's sitting this one out.
And you got to take advantage of that, John. You got to take advantage of that.
And so Kemba's like, I guess he's sitting it out, so I guess I'm the one who's going to have to. And so he did. And so, yes, it can be on the player, but also I don't disagree. Brad could be like, guys, we got to know what we're doing here. It's a game. We don't have Jaylen. We got to get Jayson touches in places where he can whatever. You got to get moving. Reminders. Who knows if he's giving them or not? But ultimately,
It's difficult though.
Tatum's got to show up.
It's difficult because Fournier starts 5 of 5. He's on absolute fire. You got to still feed him the ball. Kemba started this game so well. And I think what we're continuing to see with some of these bench guys rotating in, and of course you had 2 stars out again tonight, there's an obsessiveness almost with trying to get them involved. They are looking for their touches. They're looking to get in where they fit in offensively. And you're either just looking at that mix of, are we going to tell these guys to get in the corner and just get out of the way to Tatum? Or are we going to try to mix in Jabari Parker, the offense, to some degree? Some of the other guys like Cornette that they were going to early in this game. Thompson even, which that one infuriates me a little bit because we know that one just doesn't fit when they try to force feed him the ball inside.
How about Taco?
We've been over this.
Taco for a second? Can we?
Not yet.
Do we have to?
ATOs.
I'm not ready for that.
John, 2 ATOs and Jayson Tatum can't get one. I'm just saying.
Fair enough. But you know, if you don't do
The
something
Taco
like that,
stuff was a little silly.
Twice, Bobby. You tried it once. You're going to pull it back and try it again? Oh, maybe Tatum can give him the right pass this time. I don't think it's Tatum or Taco. I think it was the play call altogether. Like, it wasn't the move. I didn't think that was it.
maybe
Brad's best game.
Real quick to come on. Real quick to Bobby's point earlier about I don't even remember what it was. I just remember being angry. When you're saying
the bench guys, yeah.
No. When you're saying everyone's trying to get their touches and this and that, like, yes, that is a thing with these Celtics. You know who it's not a thing with? Actual teams. Okay. Teams don't do that. Teams don't give a crap about got to get this guy his touches. They just play. They work the ball around. Guys get shots. Everybody's involved. It's called a team basketball. That's like what good teams do. Do you remember times in 2008 we're like, oh, got to make sure? No, you just friggin' move the ball around. Open guys get open looks. People get going. Hot hands. You try to ride hot hands. That's fine. This is the only place where it's like, oh, we got to make sure this guy gets a few touches.
It's not as much about that, though, as it is is there connectivity between these units, between the guys that are on the floor? Again, Parker sat for 4 or 5 games before this, not playing at all. Obviously, they had one practice over that stretch, and he's barely gotten integrated to this team still. So many of these bench guys still don't have a sense of what their role is really. That's what we talk about with Grant, what we talk about with Cornette, of course, a new guy coming in. And, just all those guys coming deep off the bench. When this team is missing, never mind 1 guy, all the people that come in, fill in, just feel so disconnected from everything
Brad
going on.
broke Nesmith again.
Well, that's frustrating because he's the guy who seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, but at least he's still hustling out there though. He's still grinding.
No, but
the minutes,
he played like 10 minutes.
The minutes, he's down to 13 minutes. 2 shots.
That was inexcusable.
What are we doing?
Bench played limited minutes tonight for whatever reason.
A week ago.
I told you it's going to happen. He's going to break him.
He said this a week ago.
Ugh.
It's experimentation. And again,
constant.
And
Jabari Parker is
game 65 or whatever it is.
Bobby, you're exactly right. The Jabari Parker plays because of the need for bigs with Rob out. I get it. Fine. But all of a sudden you're dusting friggin' Cornette, Williams, Parker all out of mothballs, and then Pritchard and Nesmith play 11 and 13 minutes. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's bad on a night that Jaylen is out and you need some scoring, and you reduced Pritchard a little. I mean, you reduced Nesmith a little bit last game after that 16-16-15 stretch. You got to ride that hand right there, and now he's gone backwards again.
And I think he also you said it, but you cut yourself off a bit. You could add the other rookie in there. Pritchard. I think he cut him a bit up here. Like, what is it? 10 minutes he played, or no? A little over.
11 minutes,
11, 12, something like that.
Yeah, like I don't understand. Like you're running out of options on offense, and obviously everything was running dry, right? And I just don't see, not putting Pritchard in that situation just to see what he can do. Obviously, he likes to attack the rim. He's not one of these guys like a Carson Edwards who's constantly sinking, low percentage shots. I mean, he's got a little bit of both. If you're looking for offense and a punch off the bench, I just don't understand the sense of not giving him more of an opportunity, especially in that third quarter. And I know he likes to come in strong in the beginning of that third quarter, but I just think he takes a little too long to put Pritchard back in. If it's not the very, very end of the third quarter, you're not seeing him until the start of the fourth.
Keep it tight. Again, I know you're balancing a lot of different things at this point, but if the playoffs began, as Brad said, this isn't what a playoff rotation looks like.
Not even close. Not even close. And the point made earlier about just, guys making sure everyone gets their shots. Forget all that. If Fournier had it going on, I'm milking that. If Kemba has it going on, I'm milking it. I am riding them until I can't ride them anymore. And if you're Jayson Tatum, that should make shots easier to come by because those two guys are going to draw more attention. It's not rocket science what we're talking about. That's kind of how this stuff works. If you've got multiple guys that normally aren't playing at an uber echelon level in terms of knocking down shots, and you have your normal go-to guy isn't getting as many shots, over the course of the game, they're going to get more looks. And Tatum, again, I go back to the fact that he wasn't attacking the rim. He was settling for jump shots. Shots weren't falling. And at no point did you get the sense that he was going to pivot away from that and actually go at the rim.
It's almost like he got discouraged early. I remember he tried to go to the bucket early. He had to kind of adjust in midair, didn't get the shot he wanted. And I remember Scal saying in the broadcast, well, they're pretty long down there. It's going to be hard. It's almost kind of like they got 2 bigs. It might be hard. It might be rough sailing getting to the basket. I'm just going to skip it tonight. And again, it's just this is what's frustrating. Every time it's the same criticisms. They're settling for jump shots. They're not playing. They're allowing too many open threes. It's the same friggin' thing. How in the world does Jayson Tatum score 9 freaking points against the Bulls in this game? In a game where Jaylen is out and you have to have him. I mean,
inexcusable.
You just can't do it. And again, I get it. All good players have duds from time to time. Yeah. It's just we're talking last game after the Orlando laugher. Got to run the table. Game one of that stretch, and
they come just out, get run,
and they just get absolutely run. I mean, this was.
Sherrod, you bring up a great point. I mean, what was it? Almost half of his shots came from behind the arc. He was settling a bit. It was too cool for school Tatum, right? Whereas it's not even about he's not putting forth the right effort, but it's more of this is the Bulls, so maybe I can just beat him from out here. Kemba's cooking.
Well, that's not the right approach. The Bulls got some bona fide defenders on that wing.
Right.
They're
and by
not
the
good
third
enough
quarter,
to be that team.
Damn near every single person who checked in for the Bulls scored on you guys. So what does that tell you? I mean, I just didn't like that approach. I thought he was going to switch a bit when he started going when he got to the free throw line and you saw like that sort of sense of urgency. But it was more of on like bang bang plays. I saw it more in like when a play was broken down, he picked up the ball, loose ball, then attack. I didn't like that. I like the half court set, have Tatum attacking. I mean, that's what really helped that comeback come together last week, right? Yeah, of course, 60 points went a long way, but a lot of those points came from the free throw line.
I'm worried about Smart. And I said it after the Spurs game. He doesn't look right at all. It's so uninvolved. Again, this is the kind of game where you would have expected him to step up on that ball a little bit, do a lot, maybe too much. But the last 4 or 5 games, he looks almost passive on the offensive end of the floor. Ton of passing, good amount of assists, that's for sure. But in terms of his scoring game, which is what they desperately need in a spot like this in rotation, almost nothing.
But you know what? One of the problems that
he looks hurt to me. He does.
The more you watch this team, the clearer I think it becomes is that there is a bit of gridlock between, are they going to be a team that embodies what Marcus Smart is about, or are they going to be a team that's going to be led by their offense? And they want to be a team that plays its best when they're knocking down shots. And that's just not how Marcus plays. That's not how he knows how to win. He's about that grind, grit, defense. And to your point, Bobby, I think he's tired of this shit. I think he's at that point where he's just like, look, I'm out here busting my ass defensively, and
I
don't really see a whole lot of help.
Damn if I don't.
Right. I mean, because again, he's such. I mean, when you look at the way this team is played under Brad Stevens, when we talk about Brad Stevens coach teams, if you had to pick who's the poster child for Brad Stevens coach teams, it would be Marcus Smart.
Jay Crowder.
Right, exactly. And yet, when you look at the way
those kind of guys,
right.
And you look at the way this team is built now, you look at the way they're playing, they're not. They don't look anything like the teams we've seen Brad have success with.
Brown's got a little of it.
The key word is little.
A little.
He's got a little of it.
You can say the same thing about Marcus. You know, that's interesting you bring that up because sometimes I feel like Marcus, he's in a space where it's not fair because if the Celtics, let's say hypothetically, the comeback win happens again, right, tonight. And we look at the box score and you're like, oh, yeah, even if, let's say Marcus, for a hypothetical reason, he goes off and has 12, 14 points, whatever. No one, or even if he did that in the fourth quarter, it's very rarely that we're going to say, oh, well, Marcus is the reason they won the game tonight, right? But then when the Celtics don't win, that cold shooting is always magnified to, well, Marcus needs to do more tonight. I feel like he can't win in that sense.
But what's funny is this was almost like normally when you have these criticisms of Marcus, it's when he tries to do too much. It's rare when he tries to do too little and also has a dog shit game.
Yeah, but we're going to point it out either way, right?
It's based on the need.
We point it out.
I think he's just frustrated that these guys aren't. They're just not getting it. That you got to win. You got to grind out wins.
Well, then set the tone, man. Set some tone. Did he have a tone-setting play tonight?
No, they were awful second half.
He's 65 games into the season, though. He shouldn't. I mean, at some point, it would be nice if someone else decided to set the tone besides the one guy who you count on every night to set the tone. It'd be nice if you got someone else who could do that for.
This team at the top's burnt out because they're always overcompensating for the 1-2 guys that are out. The bench guys can't contribute enough on offense, and they're not connected enough defensively. You just knew this was going to be a disaster coming in when Brown and Rob were out, and you hate to just chalk it up to that, but that's where this roster's at. The bench just doesn't give them enough in terms of reliable production. It's not even just the Grants and the Semis of the world. We've seen when Pritchard has had to jump into the starting lineup, when Neesmith has had to take on a bigger role, the competition ramps up a ton. Even Rob, to some degree, I think he probably handled it the best of anybody jumping into that main role. But
why? Because they were 11-2 when he started. Do you think that was good?
There were a few games too where even the competition of those main starting lineups got to him a little bit.
But again, we're going to criticize Rob for getting punked by Embiid that one game, and we're okay with
just
Jayson
where the
Tatum
roster's
scoring
at.
9 points against the Bulls. Like, guys have bad games, like Rob Williams was outstanding in the start. He didn't just adapt okay. He literally made them a better team.
No, but it wasn't as significant of an impact as when he was coming off the bench.
You can have bad games, but bad effort should not be allowed. And that's what
what
this
it
team.
is.
That's what this team is consistently doing more of than I think you should expect from a team that has won the way they have. Their effort is just so damn all over the map. It's inexcusable.
Yeah,
it
and
is.
I just don't think Jayson Tatum is that kind of scorer where he's in a space where he has to take 7 3 or put it this way, almost half of his shots came from behind the arc, and the Celtics were behind damn near the entire game, trailing. And how many free throws? How many times you get to the line? A few times.
He
Like
was 3 for 4.
I didn't
Tatum
like his
went to the line
approach.
4 times.
3 or 4,
shots.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I just don't like that. I don't like those. He's not seeking high percentage
Well,
shots. That's not when Tatum is at his best when he's settling for those threes.
I know. Well, Wick liked this game because this could be a $30 million saving game right here.
Oh wow! Damn.
For Tatum.
He went there.
That's real talk.
Yeah.
If
That's
he doesn't
real.
make the All NBA,
You don't want to make in that third team All NBA. You
Like go Julius Randle, go
Julius. You don't want it. Go Zach LaVine, baby.
Yeah.
Wick is texting his boys like, yeah.
You do not want it. You don't want it. The Celtics don't want it. 25% of the cap versus 30% of the cap is better. We got to talk about Rob. Everything started bad today because of this news, and
this season's nuts.
And this felt like nail in the coffin sort of news, just the way they talked about it. And I know we do everyone thinks I do this woe is me overreacting sort of stuff, chop their legs off and friggin', trade them for spare parts. But the way he was talking about Rob prior to the game, turf toes, seeing a specialist, and who knows when he's coming back, probably not at all this. When he rules out an entire week, that I think we're done with Rob for the regular season, and then we'll see what
specialists. Like if someone's seeing a specialist at this point in the season, it's not good.
Nope.
That's not good.
Not good at a position that they cannot. And I know Bobby wants it to be something that it isn't, but they're not gonna live. They will not survive any team with a Tristan Thompson, Luke Cornett duo in the middle. They will not.
No,
for sure. That's a that's a death blow. I mean, certainly if Jaylen were out too, that's a bigger deal. But assuming you get Brown back and Tatum, that hole in the middle is brutal. You almost wonder whether they need to reinvent themselves on the fly and go small.
Well, you saw it in the fourth.
You may choose to go Golden State style and go Fournier, Jayson, Jaylen, Kemba, Smart, and do your best and just
play the zone.
Go.
Play zone.
Play to your strengths and go. Do not F around with the big. Bring in the bigs off the bench when you need them, but don't F around with it. Or at least play that lineup or lineups like it.
You can't do it against a Bulls team, though. I mean, they tried and it worked a little bit, and then it just fell apart.
Make them adjust to you.
No, but they did it to start the fourth. Grant went in at that center spot. It looked great. They got within 8, and then Vucevic drew a double from Smart and Fournier, and it was over. You can only survive so long against a guy like that down the middle. And you look who they're possibly going to go against. Can that work against Giannis? Can that work against Embiid? Can that work against, Kevin Durant even? The Nets matchup would probably be the best spot for that. So that might actually end up being a convenient series for them when it comes to the availability.
It would, because you got only DeAndre there to worry about. You're actually hoping.
Yeah, and the Nets don't want to play him anyway.
No, they don't want to play him at all.
Right.
That is better than the alternative. You're right.
The play-in is a good thing.
But honestly, we're joking about it on the text thread, but go positionless and do your best. Why go out there and try to play 25 minutes of Tristan and 18 minutes of Cornett?
Tonight. The taco stuff too.
What a freaking joke that was.
They didn't play Grant until the fourth quarter.
Vibes.
And again, I'm not seeing Grant in the chat, thankfully, because Grant was actually a huge part of this comeback. The spacing he was providing down the stretch, interior play. I was looking at the numbers of how much center he's played this year. It's actually the same as last year, which is really surprising to me, probably because he didn't play a ton during the regular season. But once you got into that postseason, he was one of the guys they leaned on most at that center spot, and it went really well, especially on the defensive side of the floor. So I want them to continue to experiment with that over the next week or so, because he looks legitimately comfortable at that spot. He can just hold his ground in the paint, spread against some bigs on the perimeter, and get some wide open threes. I mean, there was no one in his universe on those looks he was getting down the stretch. So that was a mildly positive development to begin the fourth. But again, it took way too long to get there.
I'm just not ever going to be comfortable with Grant Williams taking open, contested, empty gym threes. I'm just not. I like what he can bring as a defensive small big. I love him in that role because, again, I think it forces teams to try to go to that matchup, which means their better scorers, their elite scorers, are not going to be as engaged offensively. Like if they play a team like the Nets, they may look to go to DeAndre. I'd much rather DeAndre's taking shots than KD, than all the other guys.
You don't want Grant. I don't want Grant. That's a guy. We keep talking about the Grant shooting percentage, and I know Bobby. I'm not. I'm not angry. I'm not angry at you. But we keep talking about Grant's percentage being around 35, 36. Not bad. Again, wide, but it's
all
open.
A small sample.
I know, but wide open when he should be knocking down 45, 46, 47, way higher. And you can see almost every one of his 3 attempts tonight. He was only 1 for 4, but I felt like they were all short side. You could see them leaving the hand, and you could see them being so far off target the second they left his hand. I'm like, that's going to miss right. That one's short. He's not even close. I just don't want him.
Thing, though.
Just don't want him shooting threes.
This is what drives me crazy about the way they approach this game tonight. At this point in the season, you have to find something, commit to it, and give it some rhythm, give it some connectivity.
They did. We did. You had those 3 games, and again, my head's gonna explode. Those 3 Nesmith games where he played those heavy minutes and scored those points. It was no Jabari, no Grant, no Semi, no Cornette. And again, not because you had 2 bigs there. I understand Cornette playing out of necessity. It was very clear. I have determined, and no Romeo. Okay. And then last game, he starts a couple games ago, he starts sneaking Romeo in. And we're like, where did that come from? Why was he in the game late? That seemed odd, but he was.
Again, he's benched.
And then all of a sudden, what's Semi doing in there? And here you go. And then tonight, here come these other guys. And it's like, he had it for 3. He had it for 3 games, and it went away from it again.
They can't play the matchup game with this team. Like, it's just too sporadic. When it doesn't work, you have to go in a million other directions, and that's what happened tonight. They try to match up with Vucevic down the middle with Taco, Cornette, trying to block him inside, and he's such a great passer that he just took complete advantage of it when the defense was collapsing and all that different kind of stuff. The zone, they picked that apart. Again, you mentioned it, John, and it's so true. You just have to play to your strength at that point. Yeah. Keep it tight. Go in a different direction than the other team is.
Well, what is this team's strength, though, Bobby? I mean, because it seems that their strength fluctuates from one night to the next. One night they're great shooters, another night they're great attacking the rim. What is this team's strength? Like, what can they lean on?
On a night like tonight, probably shooting, speed, and ball handling.
It's a team that you want to shoot that won't work the ball around for open shots because they play hero ball, and it's a team that should theoretically have speed when they play their smaller lineups. It refuses to run, so they don't play with pace and they don't consistently work the ball around. So the answer is that. I always use the golf analogy. You go out, you shoot 100 every time out, but just one time you nut a 7-iron from 168 yards out with 8 feet from the pin, and you're like, that's the golfer I am. That's the Celtics. That's the guy I am. That's the guy I could be. This is who the Celtics are. Is they play that one game where they work it around. They get 34 assists. The ball is popping. They're playing with pace and space, and you're like, yes. That's the blueprint. That's what it looks like. And then completely forget themselves the next game and go back to bullshit like we saw tonight. You find that thing that has worked and you do it. It's amazing. We're 60-something games into the season and it's still you're looking for answers when you know what the answer is. You have the answers to the test. You just refuse to pull the thing out and friggin' read them. It's unbelievable.
This team could be golfing soon. Did you see the pictures Tatum posted in Orlando? He's looking that nice weather. If they're done in 2 weeks, he could be.
Well, that's the thing.
Your head starts to Orlando.
Your head starts to leave, right? I mean, Sherrod, you've covered a million teams in your time. When you start to get a sense this team's not going anywhere, you stop trying. You've seen
1,
teams.
2, 3 Cancun. That's a real thing.
Yeah,
it is.
Especially at this point, like
they know it. They're like, "F these guys, man." Yeah, and you start to check out. I'm not doing it anymore. The not playing basketball seems a lot more appealing than playing basketball to me right now, and that's
sad.
And that's close to where they are.
Sad. I think the most telling sign of it is losing the way they did against a team like the Bulls, which is obviously they're at the end of their rope here. They're just trying to grab any wins to try to squeeze into this play-in tournament, and they're playing like they have nothing to lose. Like why do we get that attitude from the Celtics?
Maybe that killed me.
But maybe it's the criticism. But when the criticism's at an all-time high, we get the reactionary Celtics. Whereas
I can't
now,
believe, yeah.
Why can't they keep that same energy? You know,
I can't believe Scal said that with a straight face to end the broadcast. Oh, the Bulls, they're playing with their backs against the walls. They basically have to run the table. They're playing with passion. Blah. Like, I mean, how can you say that? Like the Celtics are like the Celtics aren't in the same boat, man. Like, why give them credit for the thing that the other team is not doing? The Celtics absolutely need to be doing the same thing.
Giving them way too much credit for sure.
Oh God.
You don't expect them to win.
It just killed me, man.
You don't expect them to win 100% with this situation on hand, but you got to keep it close. Being down 15-20 throughout the game like they were, only getting within 8. It's the same thing they've been doing all year, depending on, whether it's one guy, two guys down, one guy, you're probably in a better position to win some of these games. When I came into this game, seeing that Rob was going to be out, I'm like, this is going to be ugly because we see how the offense looks. Brown being their second scorer gone makes it even more stressful on that end of the floor.
It's both his athleticism,
but you gotta keep it close. Energy,
it's the playmaking
that
Rob.
Does.
You lose so much with Rob. You lose the playmaking on offense. You lose.
They've looked awful without him.
Yeah. Awful. They finally got something good going with him, and then he fell apart. I mean,
again, we talked about this last night in the chat. I think this team has a really good thing going if they have everybody there, but that's the tough thing,
Bobby.
Yeah,
I mean, it has to be the perfect storm for them to be pretty good.
Well, that's how the roster's built. I mean, this bench is just so bad.
Yeah. You remember I said that back when if you're a team, you want to be like, everything will be fine. We're gonna do well unless unforeseen things happen. The Celtics we're gonna do what will be fine if they need a bunch of things to happen, and that's why it needs to be perfect. They need to be perfect health. They need to be playing.
I feel like Brad said something like similar to that like a week ago. Yeah.
Right, but that's always been, if you're a good team, like Brooklyn is like, we're great unless Harden, blah, 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 injuries, they don't get going. But otherwise, nobody can stop us. The Celtics are a we're good if team. If we catch this break, and if we do that, and if we're able to pull it together, and all season long, they've been doing
but
it.
I think the problem is exactly all season long, and that list just gets longer, right?
Yeah. And then the problem, and again, Bobby's not wrong. Of course, the injuries
and the health
and the COVID and all of this we'll go through the whole season without a full team, the whole season.
That's insane.
Which is
like,
insane.
I don't even know if there's a precedent for that.
So that is legit. You can't argue it, but it doesn't stop the guys on the court from playing hard.
Right.
So that's all what Sherrod said. That's it. It doesn't matter if you're down 2. If you're down people, you're supposed to try twice as hard because you have to overcome it. Those are the games you play harder. You don't freaking mail this game in because Jaylen and Rob are out. It's disgraceful.
Right. And we knew they're gonna have we knew without Rob alone, and obviously Jaylen to a certain extent, but with Rob, we want to see more of Rob. And John, you brought it up a week ago how concerned you are, and obviously it's proved for good reason, right? But I just where's the sense of, what, let's just go out there and do it for them, like that sort of team, like they on the road, us against them, like again, like I saw so much of that a week ago, and now it's gone. It comes and goes. It's gonna come again.
Well,
they're gonna hear all the bad. They're gonna hear all the harsh criticism, and
yeah,
and they're gonna get defensive, and they'll do this again.
I think they're at a point now. It just doesn't matter. I mean, really, it's about how much pride do you take in showing up and getting your ass kicked or not.
Yeah. If it doesn't bother you,
if you're still at the point where you need people to call you out and criticize you to get motivated at this point, you shouldn't be out there.
But
you shouldn't be out there.
I feel like it takes that much, right? Because look at what we have to go off on, right? Like that's what's happened in the past 2-3 months. Like one thing after another. The Tristan Thompson thing, the guard report thing. Like it's been a pattern where they respond to it, and then 2 weeks later they're back to their old.
I know, but it's almost like team meetings, Josue. You know, like, we had a team
constant.
We had a team meeting and we flushed some stuff out and some stuff was said, and then
they had a team meeting this year too.
No,
and then you play well for one game.
What was the best one though? This was a couple of years ago. What was the best one? The
that was so good.
The flight, the kumbaya moment that Kyrie and those guys had. That's going to turn everything around.
Was that 2019?
And everybody lapped it up. Oh my God.
That's the thing about this year.
Kyrie. Oh, look, they're laughing.
My favorite.
Oh, they're hugging. Look at that.
My favorite comment was, this is legit, like comment from a handful of people. Guys,
did you see that fist bump? Wow.
That's a long flight. When you go from Boston to LA, that's plenty of time. Yep. That makes sense, guys. Like, listen, that's all the time that they had to be forced to spend with each other. And it makes perfect sense that they all were buddy after that. But then what happened a couple weeks after that? You know?
It's so tough though, and I know why everybody compares those years, but it really is hard to compare because that team had everything they needed. It was all there.
It's just reminding
this team. They're just grasping for depth every single night, and like they're struggling to breathe.
They need the perfect storm to be pretty good, that's just not good.
So going back to the thing that you always talk about, Bobby, like it's unfair to put so much of it on Tatum or this or that. Like, okay. You walk onto the court tonight without Jaylen Brown. Who are your leaders?
Tatum.
Kemba played like it.
And Kemba did. Tatum, Smart, Kemba. Kemba played like it. Tatum and Smart didn't. So, yes, you're going to look at Jayson Tatum and say, you absolutely just shit the bed in a night that they needed you badly. So yes, this is why. And this is how you can criticize a person who is in the last 15 days scored 53 and 60 points, you know, in separate games. Those are great. And it was great. And that was awesome. You just can't have these. You just can't have them. You can't be the leader of the team and come out here on a night where they need you to do a little extra something and just kind of decide, I don't know if I'm really going to play in this one tonight. Just can't do it. It's on the leaders to lead.
There's been moments that, again, everything you say is true because there's been plenty of losses that have come as a result of that this year. Tonight, I think was just a recipe of the Celtics not knowing what they were doing in terms of a game plan because of the roster situation they had in place, and the Bulls having their full cast, being fully connected and playing really good up to their potential. LaVine was amazing. Vucevic was awesome. Patrick Williams, I'm so impressed by. So this is a legit team. You just look at the impact, even on that group, of having so many young guys. Like every time I watch Billy Donovan, I feel like his head's spinning at some of the stuff they do because of who they have to rely on in turn. And they're not going to the playoffs this year because of some of the injuries and weird stuff that they've had going on along with that youth. They're almost in a similar position to Boston in that sense. Great player at the top, some real good depth and awesome starters if they're fully loaded. But when they get to the Denzel Valentines and those kind of guys, it gets really shaky there. And again, I think a lot more teams have had years like the Celtics than you guys realize. Like they're just not going to the playoffs. And if you look at that roster, that's almost inexcusable from Chicago's standpoint.
After the Vucevic trade, it is surprising that it kind of went in that direction.
9 and 15 since that trade.
How long was LaVine out for?
2 weeks or so.
Yeah. That hurt him. I mean, they weren't playing great.
How about him, huh? He just woke up at the right time. Jeez.
He was awesome.
He was good last year too.
He's a matchup problem. I mean, because of his ability to get to the rim, shoot the mid range,
and now he can shoot. Now, I mean, his efficiency this year is off the charts. He actually we talk about
he's another Hanlon guy.
We talk about how good Jaylen's been. Look at LaVine's numbers across the board. His percentages, 2-point, 3-point percentage have been unreal all year.
Dramatically.
Shot selection.
I like Coby White a lot. Again, there's so much to love on that team. Then you look and they're in 11th place. It's like, what happened there? Heat's still like, and I know we'll get to like that series at the end of the show, but there's still a real chance. Like the Celtics go into that series, even with everything that's happened the last 2 weeks, with the advantage. They have the leg up there because all they need is one. The Heat need two, just because of that great win that the Celtics got down there in January. So there's still hope. It's mild hope, but there's still hope that the Celtics can squeeze into that 6th seed and take advantage of the schedule down the stretch here. It's really all comes down to, does Jaylen play in the series or not? And I have no clue.
I mean, Brad has him leaning
like at least
towards
one of them.
leaning towards playing. We'll see. Let's just let people know here. Oh, sorry. We're not Manscaped. Wrong
Free
one.
ad.
Free ad. It's okay. We still like Manscaped. They'll be back.
Yeah.
So locker room, it seems like a good night for it. We're gonna head over, carry the rage, and bring it to us.
There'll be nothing like that Thunder game. I wasn't in that locker room, but I listened to the whole thing, and my face was just like, I put it on the JBL speaker, and the anger and noise just like blew my face off. Dudley's angry bass was just like, whoa.
that show, that was the Karen show, that was the Will show, that was the Dudley show. All-star.
Damn it.
Pandemic.
That's right.
I love that guy. It was like a 3-second pause between pandemic.
I have never ever heard the fan base sound like that.
We'll never recreate that magic. That was almost perk numbers without perk. Huge numbers.
Yeah.
People just were so salty.
A lot of people had a lot to say.
So salty.
And I understand, like 14 straight losers. The Thunder were that was rock. We're gonna have to make like a top 10 list of rock bottoms at the end of the year, and that one's easily gonna take number one.
Tonight's in there.
No, because you generally you had a couple guys missing tonight.
Tonight's in the top 10.
Chicago's on a back end of a back-to-back. You need this win.
That's true.
We didn't even mention that. That's true.
This was Zach LaVine's first game back in a while.
The Thunder were one of the worst teams in the NBA. Had nothing going for them.
The
going
Thunder
in.
One of the worst teams of all time.
Again, Chicago's still trying to make the playoffs, like however some of a chance it is. The Thunder, they need every loss.
The worst team of all time, man.
One of the worst teams of all time. I mean, their game plan against the Celtics was, we're going to give you any shot you want. Go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, guys, the Celtics are the 7th seed again.
I dare you to make those. That's what they were saying.
So, yeah.
Heat just won. Celtics are the 7th seed.
Oh, that's what's up.
Yeah.
So Celtics, they clinch the tiebreaker if they win on Sunday or on Tuesday. And again, if the Heat sweep that series with
but because of
2-3 games left to go after that, it will be all but impossible to get back into that top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it bad that we do have a top 10 rock bottom list?
Oh, it's unreal.
And the worst part about it is there's probably going to be 2 or 3 games that won't make the cut.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to argue about it. That's what I was saying. We're going to have an argument about it.
People are going to be like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
I just want to.
So many other rock bottoms.
That's how ugly all these. There's more than at least 10 ugly losses that we can argue about.
I can think of a handful right off the top. That Sunday against the Wizards, where Nick came on the show.
The first Knicks game.
Yeah.
The first Knicks game was awful.
Losing to the Pistons twice in like 9 days or something. Those were both bad.
That first Spurs game, they gave up that ridiculous. They had 2 runs that were just mind blowing. I think it was the first or second Pacers game, and then that first Spurs game. They gave up like 25-5 runs in like 3 minutes.
The Charlotte game
that was awful.
With your full roster, and then without Hayward and LaMelo, and they beat you. That's right, sandwiched. That was before or after the OKC one? Before, right?
St. Patrick's Day against the Cavs.
Oh man,
that was awful. Jeez. The Kings game the next or 2 nights later was really bad. Oh,
that's about 9 right there.
Yeah, I mean, you lost to Chicago. The
Trailblazers last time without bad.
You lost to Chicago without LaVine recently.
Yep, that one was.
Did you guys mention that Rockets game against the G League Rockets?
Wait, they lost to the Rockets?
Didn't they?
No, they took care of the Rockets, right?
I hope so.
The first game was a blowout. The second one
had a huge game.
No, they won both of the games against Houston.
One of those
that's a good list right there.
But they were playing like crap. I think like early on for like the first half or first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I think it was one of those 3 quarters thing. Yeah, they squeezed it at the end.
Getting swept by the Pelicans wasn't great either. The second one was the smart throw the ball over the backboard game. The first one was a bit of an overtime meltdown. Yeah, just bad losses all year. This was some season.
Yep.
Bob's getting ready.
It's not over yet.
I know.
Honestly, I hated that last Nets game too.
Pelicans loss was a bad one too.
Yeah. And then the Kyrie with a game where only Kyrie was available in the Nets, and the Celtics just threw it around everywhere. That was
15
embarrassing.
games.
The Pelicans was the nationally televised one, right? Sunday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So I don't know. I don't know where to go from here. I
Everyone, get your list ready. Join us in the locker room.
Yeah,
That's
that's
depressing
what
locker room session.
I'm going to change the title of that room to ranking the Celtics' worst losses of the season.
How the Heat looking
AKA
coming?
Losers Lounge. Here we come.
How the Heat looking coming into the series, Sherrod?
How do the Heat look?
Yeah.
Well, for them, everything revolves around Jimmy Butler. It's real simple. When he plays, they're incredibly difficult to beat. When he doesn't play, they suck. If Jimmy Butler's on the floor, they're winning like about 65% of their games when he plays this year. So they're going to be tough. I mean, basically, with Jimmy Butler, they're the fourth best team in the East. Without him, they're a lottery team. That's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a team that's that good when he's on the
That's why, Bobby, every time you're like, look at the standings, that's why I contest it. I think Miami at their best is a better team than Boston, and clearly the four, even with Boston fully healthy, and I think the Celtics slide in under them, which is why before the season I was pretty solid on Boston being no better than a 5 seed unless they overachieved, because I really thought those 4 teams were clearly better. And I thought Miami would be even better than they are, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I don't think anyone predicted the seeding, but the talent you knew.
I thought the top 3 plus Miami were clearly a tier above the Celtics, and Celtics would be clawing in that second tier, fighting for the 5th seed with a few other teams. And it turns out they're even a little worse than that, but I think you can chalk some of that up to injury.
It was a long time ago, but I was impressed by that win in Miami way back when. I thought Thompson handled Bam really well. They obviously came up clutch in the fourth quarter with a game winner there.
Yeah,
it was a great win, I thought, and I think they match up better this year when they got Thompson in the middle against Bam, and Miami's big depth behind him is suffering now. I think they're going to be competitive in this series. I think the Garden fans are going to show out for those back-to-back games, and if Brown's there, I think that'll be tough for Miami to handle. Again, I've watched a decent amount of Miami this year, and I'm not all that impressed by them. Like, I didn't like the Oladipo move, and he's obviously not even on the court for them at this point. Butler, like, he's been off and on the court for various reasons, and it just is what it is from that sense with them. But some of the guys like Dragic, like they made the move for Ariza. Some of these veterans like Iguodala, they're just getting a little too old and ineffective, and I just really don't like. And Hero's had a struggle year after his great freshman or rookie year. I just don't like them as much as I did last year. I think there's a reason they're as low as the Celtics, and you're going to see a pretty competitive series here.
I think the Butler thing is for them, like you talk about.
That's the thing. Like,
everyone wants to talk about. Everyone wants to talk about Marcus Smart being the heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
No, he's not. Jimmy Butler is the heartbeat of the Heat.
Especially because of the year too that they've had, where he hasn't been completely healthy. So
those plays he makes
as
late
Butler
in the fourth,
goes, the Heat go. It's very it's very clear. Yeah.
And you know what else happens too? Everyone commits on defense. Like the Miami Heat are a scary team.
He turns them around. Yeah,
his defense is incredible.
They embody what he is about when he's on the floor, and that doesn't happen nearly enough
resonates
with the Celtics.
That's the worry.
Those veterans that you mentioned, Bobby, those are more like the reinforcers, right? They're not the ones that have to sort of keep everyone in line, because everyone is sort of on the same page. We saw what they did last year, and obviously that's carried over to a certain extent. But Jimmy Butler's been the guy on both ends for that team.
Here comes the zone again.
No, it is
that motor. And look, when these guys get out in transition, man, that's when the Celtics get exposed. Like, their transition defense against a team like this, especially if they start stacking up fouls, especially if they're a couple steps too late, closing out on 3-pointers. This could be a really long night.
And again, that's
without Jaylen Brown in the mix.
That's what drives me crazy about the Celtics team than anything else. All the defensive potential that they have completely wasted. There's been very few stretches all season long where they've looked like a great defense, and many times where they've looked like one of the worst in the league. So you think of what Miami can do on that end of the court versus what the Boston Celtics have looked like at times on that end. And it could get ugly in that one too, if that's the way that series goes. Because again, they're going to put that zone out there. They're going to say, Tatum, can you make quick decisions against us? Get to the middle, get to the spots, find your teammates. I think Fournier helps in that sense, but they're going to have to empower him to make those decisions.
Well,
he's gonna, and I think Fournier has to empower himself, because when he has the ball in his hands, guess what? You can kind of do whatever the F you want to with it. And I
he
thought
knows that. Yeah.
I think this was one of the better games for him because he was assertive. He
He's
was
been on
like
fire.
when they would go under on those screens, he just raised up rather than just
Right.
probing the defense. Just take the wide open mid-range jump shot.
He's in the
You
zone.
can make that shot, and he
Yeah.
did that. He did that early.
We talked
He's in
about
the
what
zone.
Hayward could have possibly done against that zone in these finals last year. The addition of Fournier was thinking for something similar like that in that sense too. So he's going to be critical in those games.
Mhm.
It is interesting. I never thought of the
series. You know,
I never thought of the Smart, not debate, but when we talk about Smart and how the team has not embodied his spirit this year through the lens of viewing it the way like Miami does with Jimmy Butler, it's an interesting comparison because that is kind of, no one questions that Marcus has heart and plays hard, but the team does not follow his lead if that's the case. And whether he's doing it as consistently as he's done it in the past, I think you can question that this year too, and whether that's injury or not. I'm not seeing it night in, night out from him, but if he is the guy behind the scenes and all of the quotes and everybody still says he's the heart and soul of our team, it's not translating. It's not, maybe they think it, but they don't act on it. And it's a bummer because Jimmy Butler is the exact example of, and this is a guy who was being vilified for his behavior, with Minnesota a few years back, and everyone's like, oh God, you don't want to touch this guy. And it's actually the opposite. It's where he goes, he completely turns the culture around and people follow his lead. The expectation is you got to be here to be on the court with me. And if you're not here, we're going to have a problem. And that there's nobody doing that with Boston right now. And you need that desperately. You need that desperately right now.
I just remember before the start of the season, we talked about the free agent signings, right? Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague. Whereas, these guys are going to give you a little muscle, something off the bench for the defense. You got a little bit for shooting. But I thought both of those signings had a lot to do also with what they were going to do in the locker room, right? I just feel like that those reinforcers, so to speak, that the Miami Heat have, I think that's what the Celtics are trying to get these guys. Listen, we don't know what happened in that locker room with Marcus Smart. Shirtless Marcus Smart screaming, back and forth. We don't know the extent of that argument, but we do know going into this regular season, I feel like the Celtics sort of made it an effort, made it a point to say, look, let's get some great locker room guys in there. And I think Tristan Thompson is definitely one of those guys. It's unfortunate things didn't work out with Jeff Teague. Obviously, that's not what the Celtics envisioned, but I think for the most part, I'm not saying that Marcus Smart has to sort of rally everyone together and everything, but he's just one of many voices that should be doing that in that locker room.
The problem with Marcus isn't that
in the league for quite some time now.
The problem with Marcus, I think, isn't not just that he's not good enough, and that's not a knock. It helps when the guy who's also kind of your heartbeat and the guy who you follow is also one of your best players or your leading players. He's a valuable player, but more of a role player. He's realistically most of his career been a bench player. It's hard when that type of player is the one who's like, hey guys, follow me, but he can't go out there and knock down the big shot or do that. All he can do is dive on the ball, dive on the floor, make some hustle plays and ratchet up the intensity on defense, which should help. But Jimmy Butler can affect the game in multiple ways and kind of,
I love how Smart sets the tone
lead
as a passer. Again, I think in these last 4 or 5 games where he hasn't been able to score at all, he's done it in other ways by finding a spot on the floor and hitting his teammates again and again with good assists. He's just not as empowered to do it when Tatum has the ball a lot more and Kemba is looking to get his own shots. I sent you guys a graph earlier. Amount of unassisted threes. Tatum's like one of the highest leaders on that chart.
Yeah.
Brown's way up there. I believe Kemba's got to be up there as well.
Because they dribble a lot.
There's a disparity on this roster between the shot creators and the guys who need to have shots created for them. And Smart's a guy who could fill that gap, but they'd have to really empower him as a scorer and facilitator. And it's difficult to when your strength of your team is those 3 isolation guys who can create shots. And that's probably a big reason the bench struggles as much as it does. I know we blast Grant and blast Semi and all these guys, but those are guys that need shots created for them. And if the top of the roster is not getting that done, what are they going to do? You want Semi and Grant posting up and driving to the rim off the dribble. Like that, no one would want to see that.
No, you don't. You just got to go ahead, Shrug.
No, I was just going to say that, that's why this team is a big part of why they're so up and down, because you have two different styles of play that you're trying to play every night. You have this ISO ball that you have some guys who are very good at it, but your foundation has been in ball movement. And so there has been a rocky transition from this team that's filled with guys who understand how to get the ball moving. And the guys that help facilitate that, guys like Rob, guys like Marcus, they don't have the cachet to do what they do well, and what has won this team a lot of games. And I struggle with the idea of why that's so hard to get away from a style of play that you've won with, to go with something different that while made more comfortable for your best players, is it winning you games? Like Jayson looks way more comfortable in ISO situations, but is that really the best thing for your team's identity?
It's not just.
It's not.
It's not just for the team, Sherrod. Statistically, Jayson Tatum is one of the worst ISO players in basketball. And statistically, when Jayson Tatum dribbles more than 3 times, he has among one of the worst scoring efficiencies for people of his volume in the game. It's statistically proven. It's not just your eyes that say, "Oh, they dribble too much." The stats bear out. When Jaylen and Jayson put the ball on the floor more than 3 times, their efficiency plummets. Okay, it's plummets. The answer is obvious. You got to move the ball. You will get it back. I think they're so afraid they're never going to get it back that they get it, and it's boom, 10 seconds later, a shot goes up from somewhere. And that's what they play. They have to have some faith in, like, even if that possession doesn't,
but that ship has sailed, right?
Even if that possession doesn't go your way, the next one might. You've got to establish the movement and the rhythm early. The games where they play well, you see it. It's whipping around the perimeter. They had one play tonight that resulted in a Fournier 3 where it went bing, 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 bing around the perimeter, and he got it there. And I was like, oh, look at that. It was gorgeous. And it was so normal. It's just regular basketball. You just pass the ball faster than the people can get out to the shooters until you rotate it over to somebody who is open and they hit a shot. That's what happens. That's what this game is based on. When you spread the floor with shooters, you got to move the ball. Right. You can't, if they're standing there and you're dribbling, you can't get people good looks. It's so basic, and they don't do it. It's really baffling.
Here's going to be the key to the offseason. We can say it'd be great.
And they don't run. They don't run after misses. They just don't.
That one makes
no sense. They just walk. Jayson Tatum literally takes 7. I don't want Tatum getting the ball at half court, behind the half court stripe ever again.
That one just makes no sense to me.
Takes 7.9 seconds to cross the half court stripe every time, and sometimes it's 8.5, and they really don't call it.
Yeah,
he literally is flirting with disaster every time, and it just sets you up for the shitty, slow possession it's going to be.
Because it's about what he's going to do.
He's setting it up, and you just go. Stop giving him the ball there unless he's going to run.
Yeah, and Brown will do it because that's his strength. If Tatum has to speed it up and push it, he might be turning the ball over, botching what he wants to do because he wants to break the guys down one-on-one, use his array of moves in that sense. You got a question, and this is going to be so key for him this offseason. If you're going to be the guy on the ball, running the offense, taking every possession with the ball in your hands, you need to spend some time this offseason with the other guys on this team. It can't just be your one-on-one workouts, working on more moves, trying to get closer to 30 points a game in your own individual ISO game. You have to be creating for other guys.
Get him to St. Louis.
Yeah.
You've got listen,
Bobby. Picture Tatum calling up his teammates and trying to get everyone.
I don't see it. So you know what it's going to have to be? It's going to
go to LA. Go to LA.
It's going to have to be guys like Romeo.
He's not. He's going to work out with Beal, and Jaylen's going to work out
with his all-star buddies, right?
Yeah, like, all-star buddies. They're not going to work. He's not going to go. He doesn't know. He doesn't have Grant's phone number.
Think he's going to pull a Coby when Coby used to call. Kobe would call up effing Smush Parker or whoever he had to call. He was, yo, we got to work out, like
Smush
Tatum's
Parker.
Tatum's not gonna do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, and some of it's on those younger guys. Like Romeo's got to go to summer league. Neesmith's got to go to summer league. They got to do their thing and become better players in their own right. But there's got to be a greater level of connectivity between everybody on this roster next year, because there was little to none this year. And it starts at the top. It really does. Like, they had to empower those guys early, and at this point, it's way too late. Like, none of those, you can't have any of those guys on the court, because it's just not going to work. And the only hope that you have is that it's healthy and that the guys in the circle of trust are going to be the only ones that play come playoff time.
Don't be surprised if Jaylen Brown is the guy that says,
I was
I'm
thinking
the AHL this
that
summer.
I could see. Yeah,
I could absolutely see that, especially when you think about guys like Grant Williams, for example, who's in Charlotte, which is only a hop, skip, and a jump away. And a lot of guys
again, didn't we
south.
see that from Brown when Tatum was out? We saw it. He's not the best at it.
Yeah,
he'll drive hours. He don't care. Like,
guys, we know what they need to do this offseason. They need to what? They all need.
I'm not going to say it.
They all need to go to home.
Conversation.
No, they all need to go to homeschool.
Go to homeschool.
I thought you were going to say be your best version of themselves.
No,
I was going to say
our new mantra is the Celtics have to go to homeschool. Okay, and that's the only way out of this mess.
People
I was going to say
we need to have a Jimmy Toscano graphic or something like that, and and sitting in front of a blackboard or something like that. No, actually sitting in front, like on his couch with like.
Going to
wait,
homeschool.
What do you say? Is that right? Did Payne go to the homeschool?
Peyton went to homeschool?
He went to homeschool. Like it's a university or something.
Yeah,
he went to homeschool. Right?
Shit.
Homeschool.
Jimmy.
I was going to say, hope that the season doesn't start on the 4th of July. ABC, ESPN, they'll have some ideas, I'm sure.
Yeah. Going to homeschool. That's going to be our off-season documentary.
This off season's going to be very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Oh crap! It will be. I guess we'll see. I'm really worried about
it's going to be fireworks, but not in the way that Wick.
I'm worried.
Years ago. It might be fireworks this summer.
I'm worried about blank has asked for a trade.
Yeah,
sort of
maybe
off season.
Maybe fireworks the wrong word. Maybe something with explosives in it.
Yeah.
Something involving some explosives.
All right. So let me see here. We are we open yet?
I think we are. Nope.
Not yet. We're opening up a room.
Bobby, don't leave, bro. I know you're about to leave.
No, Bobby.
No,
Bobby,
I did it right tonight.
You did?
Yeah.
You could take us home?
Yep. First time all season.
All right. The room, I believe. Is that you? We could hear the shit out of that, right?
Every time.
I thought it was me, but I'm like, that's not me because my phone never does that.
I muted. We have like 7.
Do not disturb.
I muted every single group except for that group, and Ahmed is going nuts right now.
Oh yeah.
Ahmed, text the group again.
Yeah. So we'll put it in the chat.
That's the only group I didn't mute. The one he's texted.
Yeah. We'll put it in the chat here and pin it. So come over and join us. And therapy. No, somebody said no locker room. I'm going to therapy. That's what locker room is, guys.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It is therapy.
It's not homeschool. That's for damn sure.
Just wait.
Good luck to the people listening to this on JBL.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. All good. 3 of your faces, every time it happens to you, guys are like, what is that?
I'm like, jeez. All right, I think I'm under attack. Oh, my God. Anyway, the link, I believe, has been added here in the chat. So get there. We're gonna head over.
There it is.
We have it. There it is. Yep. There we are. Join us. Celtics versus Bulls on Locker Room. Sherrod and I'll head over. Bobby, Joe Swade, 5 minutes or so and close this room up.
Yeah, we'll do it
Bobby,
quick.
you got studio control here?
I do.
All right, I'm going to jump in a minute. Any closing thoughts for our audience here, Sherrod, before we head over?
Let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's just go.
I like that. Put that in quotations. Yeah. Let's just go.
Let's just go.
Let's just go.
Joe Sway and I are going to keep talking off season, I think, for 5 minutes because
All right.
Who knows where this could go?
You
Yeah,
guys
We're
do your
definitely leaving
thing.
now.
Brad Stevens needs to write that on the board. Let's just go, guys. Let's go. Come on, wake up.
They are 1, 2, 3 Cancun. That's where they're going. Where they keep playing like
Man.
this.
That's the other direction.
See ya.
Exactly.
Bye.
All right, let's do this. So
I don't think it'll happen, Bobby. I don't think it'll happen, but let me just put this out there right now. If the Celtics lose both of these games, I mean, I guess it's stating the obvious, but like, no, like I just think it's a mental aspect after that, right? That's too big of a blow for this team. I don't know if they survive that.
They're done.
They're done, right?
Standings wise, they can't escape that play-in.
Right.
Now the question becomes,
I don't think they're mentally strong enough to handle a play-in tournament. They're not. I mean,
it depends. If they're fully loaded, and who knows what Rob's status is going to be by then, they just have too much talent for the Hornets to match up with, you would think. We'll see if Hayward and Melo gets back. We haven't seen that matchup, right? Like 3 games, I think both of them have been missing in against the Celtics. So that actually does become a little more even when it comes to the amount of talent on the floor. I just don't think they can match up with what Tatum and Brown would bring in 44 minutes. And that's what we have to consider too, how the rotation would tighten up, how much fewer bench guys would be coming off the bench for the Celtics at that point.
Those guys are playing almost the entire game. Like they might be averaging like 38, 39 minutes.
I'd just be worried if
tournament.
I'd just be worried if pregame Brad announces that Brown turned an ankle at practice and he's not playing in the playing game, and all of a sudden, I don't know, let's say Kemba's missing for that game. They don't have a chance. They can't get up and overcome these losses for whatever reason, whether it's the roster, whether it's their mentality. Every single time we've seen them play without 2 starters this year, it's been a disaster.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, everything that's happened this year doesn't help. But again, the identity of this team, we're not sure what it is. A week ago, we saw a different team, and even with or without Jaylen, like compared to what we saw against the San Antonio Spurs, granted the 60 points from Jayson Tatum was going to get you there, but like it wasn't just that, right, Bobby? Like I felt like these guys put forth the effort, and you know what? This game, for the most part, I just think they got a little too lazy on the offensive side, which has obviously been like the complete opposite of this team, right? Normally they're lazy on the defensive side, and it's like the Bulls couldn't miss a shot, whereas the Celtics are they got tired of playing catch up and started to take the try to take the easy way out and settle for shots.
For sure. So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, this team's not going to the East Finals probably, because and Bernardoni said this on Twitter, and it's a good point. Let's say they get healthy for that play-in tournament, and then they have a good first round in terms of health. Are they going to be able to sustain health over the month and a half that it would take to get to the second round in East Finals? Like at some point, it feels like something's going to come up.
But Bob, you know why that drives me crazy just hearing you say that? Because of what we're seeing from Kemba Walker these back-to-back games.
It's too bad.
Because of the schedule. And I love how like Brad Stevens, like he low-key flexed his muscles, or at least the team's muscles, being like
they handled that perfectly.
The Kemba plan is perfect right now. And all the other pieces, well, not all of them, but some of the more important pieces are falling apart right before our eyes.
Isn't that crazy? It really is.
Rob's a big part of that.
That's how we thought the season was going to go, or some of us thought it more than others, that Kemba at some point would fall apart and that would be the demise of the team. Kemba's golden. He's feeling great. Brad says he's fully healthy going into this postseason, that the plan was a success.
And most Celtics fans won't word it this way, but you can, all right, maybe not, maybe Danny didn't strike gold with Fournier, but for what he gave up, if you
100%.
compare it to the production, like that's essentially the most ideal weapon for this team, for someone like Tatum, for someone like Brown. Obviously when Brown comes back. So
again, I said it last night.
Those two playing together has been an eye-opening experience for everyone.
If you told our panel here at the Garden Report before the season that Rob was going to emerge as a starter, Fournier was going to come in and play great, Kemba was going to be fully healthy all year and peak at the right time, Brown and Tatum were going to have career seasons. Think of all the stuff that's happened this year. You'd be like, wow.
No other tandem in the NBA has scored more points than Tatum and Brown.
If you told someone that coming into the season, you would think that this team was a top 3 seed, that they'd be rolling into the playoffs with these finals hopes. Even the little stuff like Neesmith and Pritchard having the seasons they did. Outstanding picks at the end of the day, it looks like. So
Right.
all that stuff comes together, and you're like, this team should be looking great. And instead, it's the complete opposite. So it's a mix of everything. I don't think they played with the right approach. I don't think the injuries and health have been anywhere where they. And people hate hearing that, but it's just a fact.
It's the facts. Yeah, you have to continue to mention it because it's a big part of what we're seeing this year. Another thing too, also the defense. I mean, yeah, the health doesn't help with that, but like I think
that's a great point.
The biggest reason why I even could consider the Celtics a top 5 team, I said best case scenario 4 or 5. I felt more comfortable saying 5, but the reason that I felt so confident in saying that, calling them a top 5 team, was because I'm thinking they were going to be a top 10 defense. They were a top 10 defense for about 6 weeks, maybe, after the All-Star break, and that was it. And that's a huge part of how this team's makeup was supposed to, you know what I mean, from the beginning. Like,
but that's connectivity too. You got to have your guys out there night in and night out. If you're running 33, 34 starting lineups like they have, and what's been this team's problem? The starts. They go down big early every single night. But I also think part of that has been Brad staggering better players throughout the lineups, trying to have good lineups throughout these games, because he doesn't trust his full bench unit if they were going to start all the best guys to begin these games and then rotate into the 7th or 8th. It's just not going to work. Now, real quick before we get out of here, I want to ask you, we've heard Jeff Goodman's take that there needs to be a significant change to this team at the end of the year. If you missed that, check it out. He explained it again this week in the Ryan and Goodman show and then their Garden Report appearance here on CLNS. He thinks either Jaylen needs to go for another star like Bradley Beal. Our Sherrod has mentioned Karl Anthony Towns being a possibility, or you move on from Brad. And at this point, believe it or not, I've been thinking about that one for a couple weeks now, because what are you going to change on this roster otherwise? You can mix up the bench. You can get aggressive with some of these picks, I think, and strengthen the depth of this team. But we've talked about the tax, too. That's going to cost a significant amount of money. And if you're not a championship team, you probably don't want to go too deep into the tax. So what do you do, Joe Sway? Are you canning Brad?
Honestly, Bobby, I think I still think it's a strong possibility, but I don't know if it happens this offseason. I know it sounds crazy, but again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think it's crazy. I think he gets one more chance.
Yeah, I mean, like I think because of everything we just said, and I'm not gonna repeat it all because we've been saying it in every single episode on this thing. Like, it's a lot for a team to really shake up a team based off of that. If you're Brad, you're saying, well, I still want to see what this team looks like at complete full strength. Now, with that being said, is that realistically possible next season? I mean, what's Kemba going to look like? What's the situation with Jaylen, Robert Williams? And if Danny is up against it, I think he has to seriously consider that. But again, I don't think you make that decision without having a conversation with the players, or at least without the players essentially coming to you to force a conversation. Because again, that's happened a lot in the NBA. And I think Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, 2 All-Stars, Kemba Walker, maybe he's part of that conversation. Maybe Marcus Smart is. Maybe those 3, right? Tatum, Brown, Smart. If those 3 decide, you know what? We need a new voice in here. It's nothing personal. It's time to move on. Then I think, yeah, no question. I don't think Danny forces that marriage, right? I don't know who said that.
Oh, he's not gonna.
I don't know who said that a week ago, but someone was saying how, like, yeah, but Danny's not going to walk away from Brad after an extension. Well, if his players have something to say about that and they're saying that it's time for a new guy, then it's time for a new guy. Danny's been in this league long enough on both ends of the spectrum, right? As a player and as someone in the office, in the front office, he knows that those are the signs that it's time to move on from a head coach. So, barring that, I think that's the only way it really happens this offseason.
I'll be concerned if that happens, because I think that's
just that happens.
I think it's a lack of awareness by the players of what went on this year and the situation that Brad and frankly everybody involved here was pressed
right.
with.
But I think a lot of the times though with NBA players, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, maybe an entire month removed from the end of your season, that's when guys really start to think about what happened. That's when guys really start to reflect on what really happened throughout the course of the regular season. If 2 or 3 of those guys think that maybe this voice, there's no way we can make this thing work next season, and Brad's got to go, then that's a conversation they'll have with Danny. I really do believe that.
That's the only time I think you think of it. But at that point, you start to get worried about the players too. And I know they're young, and I know that can be an irrational response to going through something like this. But at some point, they're going to have to come together and realize that this was a collective mistake this year, and everybody had some share of the blame. And again, would they want to see themselves traded because of this year? That's kind of the same thing as firing Brad because of this year. And again, Brad has not had the best year. I think I wrote about it last week. He shares an ample percentage of the blame here, particularly in the last month and a half. But you get a mulligan this year, I think. I don't think any coach should be fired strictly based off this year. I said Doc shouldn't have been fired in the Clippers.
I don't know that locker room, man. I don't know if everyone's feeling Brad. Let me say this. I said this in the locker room. I think it was a week ago, and I'll say it here for everyone who wasn't there. How many times? And I said it this episode right about an hour ago, right? When the criticism is at an all-time high, or when it's reached its boiling point, when these players react to them, we got Marcus Smart saying what he said. You got Tristan Thompson saying what he said, the outside noise, as Jaylen Brown put it, that's how they respond. Name one guy out of all those guys, right? Because they've heard it. Everyone's heard the Brad Stevens fire Brad Stevens talk. Shit, that talk started essentially after they were bounced out of the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
People have been saying it since 2019.
Name one player on this team that stood up for Brad Stevens. Name one guy who said, it's okay, we believe in our coach. When did Jaylen Brown say that? Has Jayson Tatum said that? Has any of those guys, especially the essential one, your key core, has anyone stood up for Brad Stevens? They stand up for each other.
Not emphatically.
They stand up for, Marcus Smart stand up for his accolades, right? He likes to remind us that he's an all NBA defense. All right, Marcus, we appreciate that. But are you going to stand up for Brad? Who's standing up for Brad? That's my question. That's the big reason why I think that's going to be a conversation that they have. They have to have it. Do we still want Brad in this locker room? I think that's something that's a conversation they'll have in the summertime for sure.
No, and that can change things. It really can, because you look at Atlanta this year; they were going to hell, and then they fire in a very controversial decision their coach Lloyd Pierce, and Nate McMillan, a bona fide assistant who had success before then, was able to turn it around in a dramatic way. They have plenty of talent there, but also a ton of youth and unproven guys, and they've been able to effectively raise them up this year. So I don't think you can completely take moving on from the coach as the solution here, but I think there are bigger issues beyond that too that have to be addressed. So it can't just be that, and I think you have to address some of those other issues first, and maybe give Stevens one more chance here. I would consider that bona fide assistant though. Put some pressure on Brad, bring a different voice in that room, and just shake up that coach's room as a whole. They've missed Walter, and again, you don't want Walter back for other reasons, but
we won't get into that.
But who are some other guys who have left? They lost another assistant recently as well. I can't think of his name, but they brought in Evan Turner to try to play that role, and
they're huge on. Not Allison. Excuse me. She got the college.
Oh, Carol Lawson. Yeah,
Carol
they've
Lawson,
missed her.
They were shedding tears when she.
Mika Shrewsbury.
Mika was a huge one too before her. Yeah, that's right. Mika got a job before last season, and she didn't even make the entire season because she was such a
I love that move by her too. Yeah,
as Brad Stevens said, he wasn't surprised that he couldn't keep Carol Lawson. So yeah, that's a good point, Bobby. Those are two significant voices that aren't there anymore.
Yeah, Goodman threw out a bunch of names on the podcast as well, since he's obviously more connected with the college game. But yeah, you would think they'd probably want to move away from some college guys if they're looking for a different approach here. This former Celtics, there's great assistants around the league. No mistake there. We've heard Sam Cassell. We've heard, a number of names around this league, and there certainly are guys who have grinded for a long time.
Perk mentions Sam Cassell in the locker room that time we had him.
Trying to think, Billups hasn't coached at all, has he?
No, I think he's still got a couple more years as an assistant before he makes that leap.
Like Ty Lue, when he started coaching Cleveland, people were like, Ty Lue, the guy who got stepped over by it, but he was coaching for a long time in Boston and on the bench in Cleveland there before they made that move. So he had experience as an assistant. I want some guy with legitimate coaching chops that can also connect to the players there. I don't want to just bring in Jayson Tatum's high school buddy because he'll get along with them and then have coaching issues on hand, So
you don't want a yes man. You don't want another yes man there.
No, coaching chops matter, I think, to some degree. They've gained a lot from Brad being an outstanding X's and O's guys over the years. So my disappointment there is they haven't reaped the benefit of that this year that much.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that his voice is just not the same anymore in that locker room. And
could be true.
Again, that doesn't mean Brad Stevens is a bad coach. I just think sometimes just a marriage has reached this point. In the NBA, we've seen it before, especially if they haven't reached that ultimate mountaintop. It's tough. You know.
Yep. All right, we're out of here. We got to get over to the locker room. Download the app. It's on Android. It's on iTunes. We'll be over there in just a few minutes. John and Sherrod are already rolling over there. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to All Access. Check out all the stuff we put out there today.
Definitely.
And we'll see you on Sunday, 1 o'clock against the Miami Heat for a ginormous game. Playoff game, frankly, against the Heat. So Monday, Tuesday, I'll be there on Sunday. I think Joe Sway will probably be there on Tuesday. So we'll be there on scene. Last 2 home games of the year. Exclusive content here on CLNS Media, so stick with us.